when your world turns upside down. You're sitting in your car, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the email on your phone. We're restructuring. Your position has been eliminated. 20 years with the company, gone. Your chest tightens. Bills are due next week. Your kid's college tuition is coming up. Everything you thought was stable just crumbled in a single sentence. Or maybe you're in a hospital waiting room at 3 a.m. The doctor's words echo in your mind. We found something concerning. Your perfectly planned life suddenly feels like a house of cards in a windstorm. The future you imagined, it just vanished. Sound familiar? If not these exact scenarios, then perhaps others. The relationship that ended out of nowhere. The natural disaster that destroyed your home. The global crisis that shut down your business overnight. We'd all been there, standing in the rubble of what we thought was permanent, wondering how to even take the next breath. Here's something fascinating. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world faced the same feelings. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, watched as plague swept through his empire, killing 5 million people. His own brother, Lucius Verus, who ruled alongside him, died in his arms. Wars raged at the borders. Economic chaos threatened everything he'd built. Yet somehow, in the midst of an unimaginable crisis, Marcus Aurelius didn't just survive. He became one of history's greatest philosophers. His personal journal, known as Meditations, reveals the mental strategies that kept him steady when everything around him burned. These weren't abstract theories. They were battle-tested techniques forged in the fire of real catastrophe. What if I told you these same strategies could transform how you handle your own crisis? Not by making you emotionless or detached, but by giving you an unshakable core of strength while the storm rages around you. That's the Stoics didn't teach suppression of feelings. That's a myth. They taught mastery over your responses, clarity in chaos, and finding opportunity in obstacles. Over the next 7 sections, you'll discover exactly how to apply Marcus Aurelius's crisis wisdom to your modern life. You'll learn why helping others during a disaster actually strengthens you, how to stay sane when everyone else panics, and the art of letting go when life changes forever. You'll build an inner fortress that no external crisis can breach, transform your worst days into defining moments, and master a simple morning routine that dissolves anxiety. Finally, you'll understand why the Stoics' strangest practice, contemplating death, might be your secret weapon for truly living. These aren't feel-good platitudes or motivational fluff. These are practical, proven techniques that have helped millions navigate everything from personal tragedy to global catastrophe. Whether you're facing job loss, health scares, relationship collapse, or just the general uncertainty of our times, these 7 Stoic secrets will be your guide through the darkness. Ready to discover what Marcus Aurelius knew that we've forgotten? Let's begin. 1. Why helping others during crisis actually helps you. You're rushing through the grocery store, frantically grabbing essentials as news of the crisis spreads. The shelves are emptying fast. Your cart is half full when you notice her, an elderly woman in the cereal aisle, reaching for a box on the top shelf, her weathered hands trembling. Every instinct screams at you to keep moving, to secure your own supplies before they're gone. But something makes you stop. This moment right here is where Stoic philosophy meets real life. And Marcus Aurelius would tell you that helping that woman isn't just the right thing to do. It's actually the smartest thing you can do for yourself. Here's what most people get wrong about Stoicism. They think it's about becoming cold, detached, emotionless. Like you're supposed to transform into some kind of philosophical robot who doesn't care about anything. Nothing could be further from the truth. Real Stoicism, the kind Marcus Aurelius practiced while leading Rome through catastrophe, is built on a radical idea. We're all connected, and acting on that connection is what makes us truly human. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully in his personal journal. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him. These are obstructions. Think about that for a second. The Emperor of Rome, dealing with plague, war, and unimaginable pressure, took time to remind himself that we're like parts of the same body. Your left hand doesn't compete with your right hand for resources. Your upper teeth don't hoard food from your lower teeth. They work together because they're part of the same system. During the crisis of his time, when the plague killed millions of Romans, Marcus Aurelius didn't retreat to his palace and stockpile resources. He sold imperial possessions to fund relief efforts. He personally led troops to defend the borders. He understood something profound. In crisis, isolation weakens us all, but connection makes us stronger. Modern science backs this up. Studies show that helping others during disasters actually reduces our own stress hormones, boosts our immune system, and increases our sense of control. When researchers at UCLA studied people's responses to major crises, they found that those who engaged in helping behaviors reported feeling less anxious and more capable than those who focused solely on self-preservation. But here's where it gets really interesting. In our hyper-individualistic society, we've been trained to see ourselves as solo operators. We celebrate the self-made success story, the lone wolf, the person who needs nobody. This works fine when systems are stable, when grocery stores are stocked, hospitals are functioning, and society hums along smoothly. Crisis strips away that illusion fast. Suddenly, you realize how much you depend on the truck driver who delivers food, the nurse who works double shifts, the neighbor who checks on your kids. The infrastructure you took for granted reveals itself as a vast web of human cooperation. And you're part of that web whether you acknowledge it or not. This is why helping others during a crisis isn't some feel-good optional extra. It's strategic wisdom. When you help that elderly woman reach the cereal, you're not just being nice. You're strengthening the very fabric that holds society together. You're investing in the network that might support you tomorrow. You're practicing the virtue that Marcus Aurelius considered fundamental to human flourishing. Let me share something I witnessed during a recent crisis in Chicago. When the power grid failed during a brutal winter storm, one apartment building became a beacon of Stoic wisdom in action. Instead of everyone retreating to their units with their personal supplies, residents spontaneously organized. Those with gas stoves cooked for those without. People with extra blankets distributed them. The young checked on the elderly. Within hours, what could have been a building full of isolated, frightened individuals became a functioning community. The result? Not only did everyone survive, but residents reported feeling less stressed during the crisis than during normal times. Why? Because they discovered what Marcus Aurelius knew. We're stronger together than apart. The act of helping others gave them purpose, connection, and a sense of control in uncontrollable circumstances. This doesn't mean you neglect your own needs or give away resources you genuinely need for survival. Stoicism isn't about self-destruction. It's about recognizing that your well-being and others' well-being aren't opposing forces, they're intertwined. The stronger your community, the safer you are. The more you contribute to collective resilience, the more personal resilience you build. So when crisis hits and your survival instincts kick in, remember Marcus Aurelius selling imperial jewels to feed plague victims. Remember that we're designed to work together like parts of a body. Remember that helping others isn't weakness, it's a strategic strength. Because here's the ultimate Stoic truth about crisis. We don't survive alone. We never have. We never will. The question isn't whether to help others during a crisis. The question is whether you'll recognize this truth in time to benefit from it. Next time you see someone struggling while you're securing your own position, pause. That moment of connection, that act of assistance, might just be the thing that transforms your crisis from a nightmare of isolation into an opportunity for human flourishing. As Marcus Aurelius knew, and as every crisis proves, we rise together or we fall apart. In essence, when you extend your hand to help another during a crisis, you're not depleting your resources, you're investing in the invisible infrastructure of human connection that no disaster can destroy. That's not just a good philosophy. That's survival wisdom at its finest. 2. When everyone around you loses their mind. The scene is all too familiar. You're standing in line at the pharmacy, prescription in hand, when chaos erupts. A man shoves past you, arms full of supplies, knocking an elderly gentleman to the ground. Behind you, a woman screams at the cashier about purchase limits. To your left, someone's filming it all for social media, hoping to go viral with crisis chaos at CVS. Your blood pressure rises. Your fists clench. Every fiber of your being wants to either join the madness or explode in righteous anger. Stop. This moment, right here, is where you discover whether you're truly in control of your life or just another puppet dancing to chaos tune. Marcus Aurelius faced this same test multiplied by millions. As plague ravaged Rome, he watched senators flee the city, abandoning their duties. He saw merchants triple their prices, exploiting desperation. He witnessed soldiers deserting their posts, choosing self-preservation over honor. The most powerful man in the world, surrounded by cowardice, greed, and betrayal. Yet his writings from this period show no bitterness, no rage, no despair. How? He understood a principle so powerful it can transform your entire crisis experience. You cannot control how others behave. You can only control how you respond. Sounds simple, right? It's not. When everyone around you loses their minds, your primitive brain screams that you're in danger. Your mirror neurons fire, pulling you toward their emotional state. Your stress hormones surge, preparing you to fight or flee. In that pharmacy line, surrounded by panic, your biology is literally conspiring to make you panic too. But here's what the Stoics discovered. Between stimulus and response, there's space. A tiny moment of choice. Viktor Frankl would later call this the last of human freedoms. The ability to choose your response regardless of circumstances. Marcus Aurelius mastered this space while Rome burned around him. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in modern America. During a recent crisis in Los Angeles, A grocery store manager named David watched as customers stripped his shelves bare, fighting over toilet paper and canned goods. One woman literally pulled items from another's cart. A man threatened staff when told about purchase limits. The situation was spiraling toward violence. David could have called security, escalated the conflict, met force with force. Instead, he did something remarkable. He stepped into the middle of the chaos, spoke calmly but firmly, and said, "I understand everyone's scared. We're getting more supplies tomorrow. Let's help each other get through this." Then he personally helped distribute items fairly, maintaining eye contact, using people's names when he knew them. The shift was immediate. Not everyone calmed down. Some continued their selfish grabbing. But enough people responded to his composure that the overall energy changed. Order emerged from chaos, not through force, but through one person refusing to lose their mind when everyone else had lost theirs. This is pure Stoic philosophy in action. David couldn't control the panicking customers. He couldn't stop the hoarders or calm the agitated. But he could control his own response, and that response became a center of stability that others could orient around. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about this during his own crisis years. He reminded himself daily that other people's actions were outside his control. When advisors betrayed him, when citizens rioted, when allies became enemies, he focused solely on his own choices. Not from a place of cold detachment, but from understanding a profound truth. Your power lies in your response, not in controlling others. As he wrote, "Confine yourself to what lies in your own control, and you will be free." This becomes especially crucial when dealing with crisis profiteers, those special breed of humans who see disaster as an opportunity for exploitation. You know the type. The neighbor is selling generators at a 500% markup during power outages. The online seller is hoarding medical supplies to create artificial scarcity. The landlord is illegally evicting tenants during economic collapse. Your instinct is to rage against them, to demand justice, to force them to behave ethically. And that instinct isn't wrong. These behaviors are reprehensible. But here's the Stoic insight. Your anger, however justified, only depletes your own resources. It clouds your judgment, raises your stress, and often accomplishes nothing except making you another casualty of the crisis. Instead, Marcus Aurelius would advise focusing on what you actually control. Can you report price gouging to the authorities? Do it. Can you share resources with those being exploited? Do it. Can you create alternative solutions that bypass the profiteers? Do it. But don't waste precious mental energy trying to force unethical people to suddenly develop consciences. As he noted, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. Consider Sarah, a nurse in Miami during a recent crisis. Her family constantly sent conspiracy videos, questioned her medical expertise, and accused her of being brainwashed. Every family text thread became a battlefield. She spent hours crafting responses, finding credible sources, trying to convince them. Then she discovered Stoicism. She realized she was trying to control the uncontrollable, other people's beliefs. She shifted her approach entirely. She set clear boundaries. I love you all, but I won't discuss conspiracy theories. When they persisted, she simply didn't respond. When they respected the boundary, she engaged warmly. The result? Her family didn't suddenly become rational, but Sarah reclaimed hours of her day and massive amounts of mental energy. She stopped feeling responsible for their choices. She focused on what she could control, being the best nurse possible during the crisis. This principle extends to every maddening behavior you'll encounter. The friend is spreading conspiracy theories. The family member is refusing precautions. The coworker is doom spiraling constantly. You cannot control them. You cannot argue them into rationality. You cannot shame them into better behavior. What you can do is set boundaries. Choose your battles wisely. Respond with facts when appropriate. Disengage when it's not. Most importantly, refuse to let their chaos become your chaos. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. So when you're in that pharmacy line, surrounded by chaos, remember, you're not responsible for the man shoving past you. You're responsible for whether you shove back. You're not responsible for the woman screaming at the cashier. You're responsible for whether you add your voice to the cacophony or become a point of calm. This isn't about being passive. If someone's behavior directly threatens you, take appropriate action. But most crisis behaviors that drive us crazy are just noise, unpleasant, frustrating noise that we cannot muffle. What we can do is choose not to amplify it with our own panic, anger, or despair. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Ultimately, when everyone around you loses their minds during a crisis, you face a choice. You can join them in the chaos, depleting your resources in futile attempts to control the uncontrollable. Or you can follow Marcus Aurelius's example. Acknowledge what you cannot change, focus fiercely on what you can, and become an island of stability in a sea of madness. The choice is yours. It always has been. 3. The art of letting go when life changes forever. You wake up one morning and reach for your phone to check work emails, just like you've done every day for the past decade. But there are no emails. There's no job. The company that defined your identity for years dissolved overnight. You sit on the edge of your bed, staring at the wedding photo on your nightstand, except your spouse moved out last month. The life you spent 20 years building is gone. Not damaged, not struggling, gone. This is the moment when most people break. When the future you planned evaporates, when the stability you counted on crumbles, when everything familiar becomes foreign, this is when the human mind rebels against reality. We desperately cling to what was, like trying to hold water in our fists. The tighter we squeeze, the faster it slips away. Marcus Aurelius understood this pain intimately. Beyond losing his brother to plague, he lost child after child of his 13 children. Only 5 survived to adulthood. Each loss shattered his vision of the future. Each death rewrote the story of his life. Yet in his private journal, we find not bitterness but profound acceptance. Not resignation, but a revolutionary approach to change that can transform how you handle your own life upheaval. He wrote, "Change and flux constantly remake the world, just as the incessant progression of time remakes eternity. We find ourselves in a river. Which of the things around us should we value when none of them can offer a firm foothold? Like an attachment to a sparrow, we glimpse it and it's gone." Notice he doesn't say change is good or bad. He says it simply is. Like gravity or time, change doesn't care about your opinion. Fighting it is like standing in a river and commanding the water to stop flowing. You'll exhaust yourself while the current flows on, indifferent to your protests. But here's where modern Americans get stuck. We've been sold the myth of permanent stability. Get the right job, buy the right house, marry the right person, and you'll achieve happily ever after. We plan our lives like architects drawing blueprints, believing we can construct a future that will stand unchanged. Then crisis hits, a pandemic shuts your business, a diagnosis rewrites your timeline, a market crash vaporizes your retirement, and we're shocked that our permanent plans proved temporary. The Stoics would say, of course they did. Everything is temporary. Marcus Aurelius governed the most powerful empire on earth, yet he reminded himself daily that Rome itself would one day fall. Not from pessimism, but from clear-eyed acceptance of reality. When you truly grasp impermanence, you stop being surprised by change. You start working with it instead of against it. Let me share a story from Portland that illustrates this perfectly. Jennifer ran a successful restaurant for 15 years. It was her identity, her pride, her future retirement plan. When the crisis forced permanent closure, she spent months in denial. She'd drive to the empty building daily, key in hand, unable to accept it was over. She made desperate plans to reopen, took out loans, exhausted her savings trying to resurrect what was dead. Then a friend introduced her to Stoic philosophy, specifically Marcus Aurelius's river metaphor. She realized she was standing in the current, demanding it reverse direction. The restaurant was gone. That chapter had ended. But she was still here, still capable, still full of knowledge and passion. Once she accepted the change instead of fighting it, possibilities opened. She started teaching cooking classes online, consulting for other restaurants, writing a cookbook. The river had swept away her restaurant, but it had carried her to new opportunities she couldn't see while desperately clinging to the past. This is the art of letting go, not giving up, but giving over to reality. It's recognizing that your suffering comes not from change itself, but from your resistance to it. The business closing isn't causing your pain, your insistence that it shouldn't have closed is. The relationship ending isn't breaking you, your belief that it should have lasted forever is. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily through an exercise called the view from above. He'd imagine himself rising higher and higher, seeing his life from an increasing distance. From that cosmic perspective, his losses seemed less like personal catastrophes and more like natural transitions. Leaves fall from trees, waves rise and crash, empires rise and fall, lives begin and end. All of it natural, all of it temporary, all of it part of the larger flow. Try this with your own crisis. Zoom out. See your job loss not as your identity crumbling, but as one of millions of career transitions happening globally. See your divorce not as a failure, but as two people growing in different directions, as natural as rivers diverging. See your health crisis not as an unfair punishment, but as part of the human experience shared across all cultures and centuries. This isn't minimizing your pain, it's contextualizing it in a way that makes it bearable. The most practical aspect of Stoic acceptance is what it frees you to do. When you stop wasting energy fighting reality, you can redirect that energy toward adaptation. When you stop mourning what was, you can start building what's next. When you release your death grip on the past, your hands are free to grasp new possibilities. I saw this transformation in a Chicago executive named Robert. After 30 years climbing the corporate ladder, he was forced into early retirement. He spent 6 months raging against the injustice, plotting lawsuits, drowning in bitterness. His health deteriorated. His marriage was strained. He was so focused on what had been taken from him that he couldn't see what remained. Then his daughter gave him Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. The emperor's words about accepting change hit him like lightning. Robert realized he'd been given something invaluable: time. Time he'd never had while working 70-hour weeks. Time with his grandchildren. Time for the woodworking he'd always loved but never pursued. Time to mentor young professionals. The same event, job loss, remained unchanged, but his relationship to it transformed completely. This is what the Stoics mean by preferred indifference. Of course, you'd prefer keeping your job, your health, your relationships. But when these preferences clash with reality, wisdom lies in swift acceptance and creative adaptation. As Epictetus taught, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. The art of letting go isn't about becoming passive or emotionless. It's about becoming fluid like water, finding new paths when old ones close. It's about treating life less like a building you construct and more like a dance you perform, responding gracefully to whatever music plays. When your life changes forever, and it will, probably multiple times, remember Marcus Aurelius losing child after child yet continuing to find meaning. Remember that everything you're gripping so tightly is already flowing downstream. Remember that acceptance isn't defeat but the first step toward victory. Because once you stop fighting the current, you can start swimming with it toward shores you never imagined. In essence, mastering the art of letting go means understanding that loss is not subtraction from your life but transformation of it. The caterpillar doesn't mourn the cocoon. The seed doesn't resist becoming the tree. And you don't have to resist becoming who you're meant to be next, even if it means releasing who you were before. That's not a tragedy. That's growth. That's life. That's the river flowing exactly as rivers do. 4. Finding your inner fortress when everything feels unsafe. The news alerts won't stop buzzing. Every headline screams danger. Your neighborhood, once peaceful, now feels threatening. That knock on the door makes your heart race. The grocery store trip becomes a strategic mission. Your home, supposed to be your sanctuary, feels more like a bunker. You double-check the locks, refresh the news obsessively, and lie awake calculating threats. The world outside has become unpredictable, hostile, unsafe. Where can you find security when nowhere feels secure? Marcus Aurelius had an answer that saved his sanity during Rome's darkest hours. While plague victims piled in the streets, while barbarian armies pressed the borders, while conspirators plotted in the Senate, he discovered something profound. True safety doesn't come from walls, weapons, or wealth. It comes from building what he called the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that no external force can breach. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He wrote during the deadliest period of his reign. Think about that. The most powerful man in the world, with access to the strongest physical fortresses ever built, found his real security in mental architecture. This isn't mystical nonsense or wishful thinking. It's practical psychology that neuroscience now validates. When you feel unsafe, your amygdala hijacks your brain, flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline. You enter survival mode, hypervigilant, reactive, exhausted. But the Stoics discovered you can build mental structures that calm this ancient alarm system, creating genuine safety from the inside out. Let me show you what this looks like in modern America. During recent civil unrest in Minneapolis, Maria found herself trapped in a neighborhood where violence erupted nightly. Sirens wailed constantly. Helicopters circled overhead. Her apartment windows were boarded up. She couldn't leave, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Fear consumed her. Then she remembered something her philosophy professor had taught about the Stoic inner citadel. She began building it brick by mental brick. First, she established what she could actually control. Her breathing, her thoughts, her responses. She couldn't control the chaos outside, but she could control the chaos inside. She started each morning with 10 minutes of focused breathing, creating a calm center before checking the news. Next, she built mental walls using logic. When fear whispered, "You're in danger," she'd examine the evidence. Was she in immediate physical danger? No. Her building was secure. She had supplies. The violence, while real and nearby, wasn't targeting her specifically. By thinking clearly instead of catastrophically, she reduced panic to manageable concern. Then came the most powerful element: perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Maria listed what remained intact despite the external chaos: her health, her mind, her ability to help neighbors, her connection to loved ones via phone. The fortress of her mind began to feel more real than the boarded windows. This inner citadel isn't about denial or fake positivity. Maria knew the danger was real, but she also knew that multiplying that danger through anxious imagination helped nothing. As Marcus Aurelius observed, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The construction of your inner fortress requires specific materials. First, disciplined thinking. When your mind races toward worst-case scenarios, you must become its architect, not its victim. Ask yourself, is this thought useful? Is it true? Is it something I can act on? If the answer is no, you don't let it take up residence in your fortress. Second, present moment awareness. Fear lives in the future. What might happen, could happen, probably will happen. But right now, in this exact moment, are you safe? Can you breathe? Can you think? Then you have everything you need. The inner citadel exists only in the now. Yesterday's safety is memory. Tomorrow's safety is speculation. This moment's safety is real. Third, value clarification. What can no crisis take from you? Your integrity. Your capacity to choose your response, your ability to find meaning, your power to help others. These form the unbreachable core of your fortress. External circumstances can take your possessions, your position, even your freedom of movement. They cannot take your freedom of mind unless you surrender it. I witnessed this principle transform someone during the Seattle protests. James, a small business owner, watched looters destroy neighboring shops. His own store had been his life's work, his children's inheritance, his identity. The threat of losing it consumed him. He bought weapons, installed cameras, slept in the shop. But the fear only grew. He was building external defenses while his internal world crumbled. A friend introduced him to Stoic philosophy, specifically the inner citadel concept. James realized he'd confused his business with his self. The shop was outside his ultimate control. It could be destroyed despite his best efforts. But his response to that possibility, entirely his domain, he shifted focus from protecting property to protecting peace of mind. He still took reasonable precautions but stopped living in fear. He asked himself, if I lose the shop, who am I? The answer surprised him. A father, community member, person with skills and knowledge. Someone who'd built a business once and could build again. The inner citadel gave him something insurance couldn't: unshakable core stability. Marcus Aurelius perfected this during his final campaign. Sick, probably dying, surrounded by enemies in a foreign land, he wrote, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. The waves are real, the danger is real, but the rock doesn't fight the waves. It simply remains itself, unmoved at its core." This is crucial for modern crises. When your external safety feels threatened by crime, disease, economic collapse, or social unrest, your inner citadel becomes your command center. From this secure base, you can make clear decisions instead of panicked reactions. You can help others because you're not drowning in your own fear. You can adapt strategically because you're not paralyzed by anxiety. Building your inner fortress doesn't happen overnight. It requires daily construction. Morning meditation, even 5 minutes, lays the foundation stones. Evening reflection reinforces the walls. Reading philosophy, particularly Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, provides blueprints. Practicing gratitude, especially during a crisis, strengthens the structure. Most importantly, you must inhabit your fortress regularly. When external chaos peaks, retreat to your inner citadel. Feel its walls around you. Remember what cannot be taken. Reconnect with your power to choose your response. From this position of internal security, you can face external insecurity with clarity and courage. The paradox is beautiful. The more you strengthen your inner fortress, the safer the outer world becomes. Not because threats disappear, but because your relationship to them transforms. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a navigator of them. You stop seeking safety outside and start generating it inside. As Marcus Aurelius knew, and as you can discover, the ultimate refuge isn't a place but a practice. Your inner citadel awaits construction. In a world where external safety is never guaranteed, building internal security isn't just a philosophical luxury. It's a practical necessity. The question isn't whether you'll face moments when everything feels unsafe. You will. The question is whether you'll have built a fortress of mind strong enough to shelter you through the storm. 5. Turn your worst day into your strongest moment. The phone call comes at 2 a.m. Never a good sign. Your mother's voice cracks as she delivers the news that splits your life into before and after. Or maybe it's the doctor's office, calling with test results that include the word you've dreaded. Perhaps it's your boss, video calling to explain why your entire department no longer exists. Whatever form it takes, you know this moment, when the floor drops out from under you and everything you thought was solid turns to smoke. Most people call these moments disasters, tragedies, the worst days of their lives. Marcus Aurelius would call them opportunities. Not in some toxic positivity way, pretending pain doesn't hurt or loss doesn't matter, but in recognizing a truth so powerful it can transform your darkest hour into your defining triumph. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't motivational fluff. This is battle-tested wisdom from an emperor who buried child after child, who led armies while dying of plague, who faced betrayal from those closest to him. He discovered that our worst days don't just test our character, they create it. The obstacles that seem to destroy us can become the very materials from which we build our strongest selves. Consider Ryan, a construction foreman in Detroit. One morning, a workplace accident crushed his right hand. His dominant hand, his livelihood, his identity as a craftsman. Doctors saved his life but couldn't save full function. 30 years of skill gone. The first months were hell. Depression, rage, workers' comp battles, bills piling up. This was unquestionably his worst day extended into his worst year. But then something shifted. Not the circumstances, his hand remained damaged. What changed was his relationship to the obstacle. Instead of asking, "Why me?" he started asking, "What now?" Instead of mourning what he couldn't do, he explored what he could. With his left hand, he learned to draw the blueprints he'd always just visualized. His injury forced him from physical labor into project management, where his decades of experience made him invaluable. 2 years later, Ryan was earning more than ever, teaching safety courses inspired by his accident and mentoring young workers. The accident that should have ended his career had elevated it. The worst day of his life had become the pivot point to a better life. Not despite the obstacle, but because of it. This is the Stoic principle of amor fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but active transformation. When life breaks you, you get to choose what gets built from the pieces. Marcus Aurelius lived this principle daily, turning each crisis into a curriculum, each setback into a setup for something greater. The mechanism is profound yet practical. When disaster strikes, your initial response is resistance. This is natural, even necessary. Grief and anger serve purposes. But if you remain in resistance, you become a victim twice. Once to the event, and again to your response to it. The Stoics offer a third path: creative cooperation with reality. Here's how it works in practice. When facing your worst day, ask 3 questions. First, what is this situation demanding I become? Not what you've lost, but what you must develop. Lost your job? This demands that you become resourceful. Lost your health? This demands that you become resilient. Lost a relationship? This demands that you become self-sufficient. Every obstacle carries its own instructions for growth. Second, what opportunities hide within this disaster? This isn't about finding silver linings or pretending pain is pleasant. It's about recognizing that destruction often creates space for construction. When a forest fire clears old growth, new species can finally reach sunlight. When your old life burns down, what new growth becomes possible? Third, how can I use this to help others? Your worst day qualifies you to guide others through theirs. Your specific catastrophe makes you an expert in that exact survival. Marcus Aurelius's writings on loss help us precisely because he knew loss intimately. Your wounds, once healed, become your wisdom to share. I saw this transformation in Lisa, a New York financial advisor who lost everything in a market crash, not just money, but reputation, confidence, and most of her clients. The woman who'd preached financial security was filing for bankruptcy. The humiliation felt unbearable. She considered leaving the industry, leaving the city, leaving everything behind. But then she realized she now understood financial loss in a way that theory never taught. She knew the shame, the fear, the practical struggles. Instead of hiding her failure, she made it her qualification. She specialized in helping others recover from financial disaster, drawing from her own experience. Her worst professional day became the foundation of her most meaningful work. This principle extends beyond individual transformation. Marcus Aurelius applied it to empire-wide crises. When the plague devastated Rome's population, he used it to reform public health systems. When wars drained the treasury, he sold personal possessions rather than raise taxes. Each crisis became a catalyst for innovation. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." The key is timing. In the immediate aftermath of a disaster, survival takes precedence. Feel what you need to feel. Secure what needs securing. But once the acute phase passes, you face a choice. You can remain in the wreckage, endlessly reliving the collapse. Or you can start building with the rubble. Building requires a specific mindset shift. Stop seeing yourself as a disaster's victim and start seeing yourself as its student. What is this teaching? What skills is it forcing you to develop? What assumptions are challenging? What priorities is it clarifying? Every worst day is a brutal but effective teacher. This doesn't mean becoming grateful for tragedy. That's insulting to real pain. It means becoming grateful for your capacity to transform tragedy into strength. The event itself may remain terrible, but your response to it can become magnificent. As Marcus Aurelius knew, we don't control what happens to us. We control what we do with what happens to us. The most profound aspect is how this transformation ripples outward. When you turn your worst day into your strongest moment, you become living proof that it's possible. Your example lights the path for others facing their own darkness. Your survival story becomes someone else's survival guide. Remember, every hero's journey requires a crisis. Every resurrection requires a death. Every breakthrough requires a breakdown. Your worst day isn't a detour from your path. It might be the path itself, disguised as disaster. The obstacle isn't blocking your way forward. According to Marcus Aurelius and confirmed by countless lives transformed through crisis, the obstacle is the way. So when your worst day arrives, and it will, remember that you're not just enduring a crisis. You're being offered raw materials for your greatest construction project. Building a version of yourself strong enough to help others through their worst days. That's not consolation. That's transformation. That's the Stoic secret hidden in plain sight. Your worst day contains the seeds of your strongest self. Water them with wisdom, tend them with courage, and watch what grows from ground that once seemed barren. The choice is always yours. You can let your worst day define you as a victim, or you can use it to forge yourself into a victor. Not victor over the event. Some things can't be defeated. But victor in your response, in your growth, in your transformation of pain into power. That's not just surviving your worst day. That's alchemizing it into gold. 6. The 5-minute morning routine that beats crisis anxiety. It's 7 a.m., and the alarm blares, slicing through your dreams. You reach for your phone, and with one glance, the world crashes into. News notifications flood your screen. Another crisis, another disaster, another reason to feel anxious about the day ahead. You feel the familiar tightening in your chest, the swirl of dread that threatens to define your morning. But what if I told you that just 5 minutes could shift your entire day? 5 minutes could lay the groundwork for resilience against the chaos outside your door. 5 minutes could turn the tide on anxiety and set you up for success, no matter what challenges arise. Marcus Aurelius advocated for morning rituals that prepared the mind for the day ahead. And in our modern world, we can adapt his wisdom into a practical routine. The power of morning rituals. Morning routines aren't just trendy. They have profound psychological benefits. They help establish a sense of control when everything feels chaotic. By taking charge of the first moments of your day, you create a personal fortress against external turmoil. As Marcus Aurelius said, "When you arise in the morning, think of the privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love, to be able to do anything you want." Here's a simple 5-minute morning routine designed to ground you in Stoic principles, reduce anxiety, and prepare you to face the day with clarity. Minute 1. Centering breath. Begin your day by taking a moment to breathe deeply. Sit up in bed or find a comfortable spot. Close your eyes and inhale deeply through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Hold for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth. Repeat these 2 more times. This practice shifts your focus from anxious thoughts to the present moment. Breathing deeply signals your body to relax, reducing cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and setting a calm tone for the day. As Marcus Aurelius noted, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Minute 2. Mindful reflection. Next, take a moment for mindful reflection. Think about the day ahead. What challenges might arise? Instead of dreading them, visualize yourself responding with calmness and clarity. Picture how you can apply Stoic principles in various scenarios. Whether it's dealing with a difficult coworker or facing unexpected news, this mental rehearsal prepares you to navigate challenges without becoming reactive. As the Stoics believe, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By anticipating potential stressors, you can frame your responses with wisdom and composure. Minute 3. Gratitude practice. Now, shift your focus to gratitude. Spend this minute thinking of 3 things you're grateful for. They can be as simple as your morning coffee, a loved one, or the ability to breathe and move. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to anxiety. It shifts your perspective from what you lack or fear to what you have and cherish. This practice can foster resilience and positivity, creating a buffer against the negativity you might encounter throughout the day. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Minute 4. Affirmation of intent. In this minute, craft a simple affirmation to set your intention for the day. It could be something like, "I will remain calm and centered regardless of external chaos," or "I will embrace challenges as opportunities for growth." Repeat this affirmation to yourself, either silently or out loud. By affirming your intent, you program your mind for success. This aligns your actions with your values, reinforcing your resilience. Remember, the Stoics believed that our thoughts shape our reality, so choosing empowering thoughts is crucial. Minute 5. Action planning. Finally, use this last minute to identify one actionable step you can take today that aligns with your values and helps you cope with stress. It could be reaching out to a friend for support, taking a walk during your lunch break, or dedicating time to a hobby that brings you joy. By focusing on a specific action, you shift your mindset from passive victimhood to proactive empowerment. You remind yourself that, while you can't control everything outside, you can control your actions and decisions. As Marcus Aurelius advised, take a deep breath, get a present, focus on what you can control, implementing the routine. To make this morning routine effective, consistency is key. Try to practice it every morning for at least a week. You'll likely find that even on days when the world feels heavy, starting with these 5 minutes can transform your experience. You may not be able to control the chaos outside, but you can cultivate inner peace. Remember, the aim isn't to eliminate anxiety entirely. That's unrealistic. Instead, the goal is to create a buffer, a space where you can respond to life's challenges with resilience and wisdom. The Stoics didn't seek to avoid difficulties. They sought to prepare for them. As you implement this routine, consider how it can evolve. Maybe you'll add a short meditation or a reading from Stoic literature. Perhaps you'll journal your thoughts afterward, reflecting on your experiences and insights. Adapt the practice to fit your life and preferences. In essence, this 5-minute morning routine is your shield against the chaos of life. It's a way to build your inner citadel, preparing you to face whatever challenges come your way. By centering your breath, reflecting mindfully, practicing gratitude, affirming your intent, and planning actionable steps, you arm yourself with the tools to navigate crises with grace. As you face the uncertainties of the day, remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics. The power to shape your response lies within you. When the world feels unsafe, you can create your own fortress of calm and clarity. The first step begins each morning. Be intentional, be resilient, and watch as you transform each day into an opportunity for growth. 7. Why thinking about death makes you better at life. It sounds morbid, doesn't it? The very idea of contemplating death feels uncomfortable, even taboo. Yet, Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics embraced this practice, understanding that a healthy relationship with the inevitability of death can profoundly enrich our lives. In a world filled with uncertainty and chaos, reflecting on mortality can provide clarity, purpose, and a renewed appreciation for the present moment. Imagine waking up each day with the knowledge that your time is limited. How would that change your priorities? Would you invest more in relationships? Would you take risks you've been avoiding? Would you stop sweating the small stuff? The Stoics believed that by acknowledging our mortality, we can live more fully and authentically. The Stoic perspective on mortality. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This isn't a call to despair, but an invitation to live with intention. The Stoics taught that understanding death is essential to understanding life itself. When we recognize that our time is finite, we become more mindful of how we spend it. consider the people you admire most. Often, they are those who seem to live without fear, those who embrace challenges, those who follow their passions wholeheartedly. What they often share is a deep awareness of life's fragility. They know that tomorrow is not guaranteed, and this knowledge fuels their drive to make the most of each moment. This perspective can be particularly powerful in times of crisis. When the world feels chaotic and unsafe, the fear of death can amplify our anxiety, but it can also serve as a catalyst for action. Rather than allowing fear to paralyze us, we can use it to motivate us to take meaningful steps in our lives. Facing the fear of death. The first step in this practice is to confront your fear of death directly. Write down your thoughts about mortality. What scares you most? Is it the thought of leaving loved ones behind? Is it the idea of unfinished dreams? Acknowledging these feelings is vital. The Stoics believed that fear loses its power when brought into the light of reason. Next, consider the impermanence of all things. Everything we hold dear, our possessions, our relationships, our very lives, is transient. By accepting this truth, we can cultivate a sense of gratitude for what we have right now. In the face of loss, we often realize the value of what we once took for granted. For instance, think about a loved one who has passed away. Reflect on the lessons they taught you, the moments you shared, and the love you experienced together. This practice can transform grief into a celebration of life, reminding you to cherish those still with you and to express your feelings openly. Gratitude in the face of mortality. When we acknowledge our mortality, we naturally become more grateful. We start to appreciate the little things: a warm cup of coffee, a sunny day, a conversation with a friend. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." Acknowledging that others will have flaws allows us to approach our interactions with compassion and patience. In the context of a crisis, this gratitude becomes even more essential. When everything feels unstable, reflecting on what you have, your health, your home, your relationships, can ground you. It reminds you that despite external chaos, there are still blessings worth appreciating. Turning mortality into motivation. Reflecting on death can also serve as a powerful motivator. When was the last time you thought about something you always wanted to do but put off? Perhaps it's a trip you've dreamed of taking, a book you've wanted to write, or a conversation you've been avoiding. The Stoics would encourage you to act on these desires now. Marcus Aurelius believed that life's brevity should inspire us to pursue our passions and dreams without delay. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is a call to action. If you know your time is limited, what would you choose to spend it on? This mindset can be particularly liberating during times of crisis. Instead of feeling trapped by fear, you can redirect that energy toward meaningful action. Use the uncertainty of the world as a backdrop for your courage. Take that leap. Start that project. Reach out to someone you've been meaning to connect with. The legacy of living fully. Finally, thinking about death can help us build a legacy. What do you want to be remembered for? How do you want to impact those around you? Reflecting on your mortality nudges you to consider how you can leave a positive mark on the world. When you live with intention and purpose, you inspire others to do the same. Your actions can create ripples that extend far beyond your lifetime. You might plant seeds of kindness, courage, and resilience in others, shaping their lives in ways you may never fully comprehend. Marcus Aurelius understood that every moment spent worrying about death is a moment stolen from truly living. By embracing the reality of mortality, you can channel your energy into creating a life that speaks to your values and aspirations. In essence, contemplating death isn't morbid. It's liberating. It offers a profound perspective on life, grounding us in gratitude and motivating us to act. By facing our mortality, we learn to live more fully, love more deeply, and pursue our passions with urgency. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control the inevitability of death, we can control how we respond to it. We can choose to let it empower us rather than paralyze us. As you navigate the uncertainties of life, remember that your mortality is not a curse but a blessing. It urges you to embrace each day, to live with intention, and to leave a legacy of strength and resilience for those who follow. So, as you wake each morning, consider the fleeting nature of life. Let that awareness guide your actions, shape your choices, and inspire you to live as fully as possible in the time you have. For in this dance with mortality, we discover the true beauty of life itself. Your crisis survival toolkit. Here we are. You've journeyed through 7 powerful Stoic strategies, each one a tool forged in the fires of real crisis by Marcus Aurelius himself. You've discovered how to transform chaos into calm, obstacles into opportunities, and fear into fuel for growth. But knowledge without action is like a sword left in its sheath, impressive to look at, useless in battle. Your crisis survival toolkit is now complete. When helping others strengthens you, when staying calm while others panic, when letting go opens new doors, when building your inner fortress, when transforming worst days into defining moments, when starting each morning with intention, when embracing mortality to truly live. These aren't just concepts, they're your weapons against whatever life throws at you. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations for us. He wrote them for himself, private reminders during the darkest period of his life. Yet they've survived nearly 2,000 years because truth transcends time. The challenges he faced, loss, betrayal, uncertainty, mortality, are the same ones knocking at your door today. But here's what's different. You now have the tools. You have the wisdom. You have examples of ordinary people who've used these principles to transform their lives. The only question remaining is, will you use them? Will you wait for the perfect moment to start? Or will you recognize that a crisis doesn't send advance notice? Will you bookmark this video and forget about it? Or will you take one principle, just one, and apply it today? If this content resonated with you, if these Stoic strategies spoke to something deep within you, then you're exactly who we created Stoic VIVU for. We're building a community of modern Stoics who refuse to be victims of circumstance, who choose wisdom over worry, action over anxiety. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of others on this journey. Every week, we dive deep into practical Stoic wisdom for real-life challenges. No abstract philosophy, just battle-tested strategies for thriving in our chaotic world. And please don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs it. You know who they are, that friend drowning in anxiety, that family member paralyzed by fear, that colleague who feels like giving up. Be the connection that helps them discover their own inner strength. Like this video, if it gave you even one insight, one strategy, one moment of clarity. Your engagement helps us reach more people who desperately need this wisdom but don't yet know it exists. Remember, you're not just learning philosophy. You're joining a lineage that stretches from Marcus Aurelius through centuries of humans who refused to let crisis break them. You're part of something bigger, a movement of people choosing resilience over resignation, wisdom over worry, strength over surrender. The world needs more Stoics, not the caricature of emotionless robots, but real Stoics, people who feel deeply but respond wisely, who face reality squarely but transform it creatively, who acknowledge life's hardships but find meaning within them. You have everything you need. The wisdom is ancient, but the application is now. The crisis is external, but the power is internal. Your response defines you. And with these 7 Stoic secrets, your response can transform not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. Ancient wisdom lives on through you.